The work the SAG Foundation is doing is enormously important. From the up-and-coming actors to the veterans like myself, the foundation is here to help all of us.
As fellow artists, we've all been there. It's crucial that we remember where we came from and help out however we can.
For over 25 years, the SAG Foundation has been the industry's best-kept secret, and we're out to change that.
As natural storytellers, it's great that we have the opportunity to give back through the Children's Literacy Program.
A disaster like Sandy really brings it home with how crucial the SAG Foundation is. Their donation drive helped so many people in need.
The seminars and workshops are crucial. Working together is what makes us better.
The SAG Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies solely on donations to keep these important programs free for everyone.
The SAG Foundation can't do it alone. We need you.
If you need help, ask.
If you can help, give.
We're all in this together.
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 Together, everyone benefits.
Join the cause.
Back now.
So good evening once again. My name is Dennis Baker. I'm the LifeRaft Program Director. Thanks guys for coming. Thanks for everyone that's viewing on the live stream. A couple of things before we get started. We are trying to be social media conscious. So we're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well. So please check us out there. The one that we always try to emphasize is YouTube, because we can do our live streams on the YouTube page as well as our website. And also, when we live stream and record our videos, they go straight up to the YouTube page afterwards. So if you missed a question or want to share this wonderful evening that we're about to have, we ask you to go share the link out to all your actor friends and everyone else. So please check us out, like, follow, all those great things. Lastly, yes, youtube.com/SAG Foundation. And lastly, what we ask you to do is be conscious of any time you have a chance to donate or click the Donate Now button on our website, because we are a nonprofit. Grants and donations is how we function. And we also have emergency assistance. So sometimes when you give, you may be helping the person next to you pay that bill that keeps them going. And also, if you need financial assistance, there's ways that we may be able to help you. You can call us at the office to get more information about that. I want to keep it there because we have a wonderful evening. I'm trying to be conscious of connecting actors with everyone in the industry. Costume designers are one people, as soon as you get cast in a project, they're one of the first people you come in contact with. So to understand their working relationship is very important. So I'm going to give it to our moderator. Rachael Stanley is Executive Director of Costume Designers Guild, and she will take it from here. So give her a hand.
Thank you. Good evening. We are all so pleased to be here and to meet with you tonight so that we can give you a little insight into the process of costume designers and how that affects us with our interaction with actors. We have a wonderful panel here today, and I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they've worked on, what they're currently working on, and any little tidbits of information that they want to share.
Hi. This is weird for us, having the microphone. We're used to being behind the camera. My name is Christine Bieselin Clark. I am a costume designer. My background is primarily in theater. I moved to Los Angeles in 1998, so I guess it's been 15 years already. I guess some projects you might have seen that I worked on. I was the co-costume designer of Tron Legacy with Michael Wilkinson. Ender's Game, which is coming out in November, and I just finished The Maze Runner in Baton Rouge. That's me.
Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy Field. I have been in this business since 1998. I started off as a wardrobe PA and I worked my way up. I'm currently the costume designer on Two Broke Girls. We're in our 3rd season. It's a fun show. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on CBS. Over the summer, I did a miniseries called Spoils of Babylon. It'll be on IFC. It's a 6-part miniseries. And it's starring Tobey Maguire, Kristen Wiig, a bunch of A-listers, which was really fun, 30s to 70s, so it was a big period project for me. Yeah, I went to FITM. I know that I am on the younger side. I'm like the new generation of costume designers, and it's just nice to be a part of the panel.
Hi, I'm Salvador Perez. I got my start in the business as a stitcher. I literally made clothes and then ran workrooms on Titanic and Barbed Wire and films like that. And I do go back and forth between film and television. I sort of like the mix of it. I've done films like Think Like a Man and Pitch Perfect, and TV shows like Veronica Mars, Castle, and I'm currently the costume designer on the Mindy project at Fox.
Hi, my name is Mary Vogt, and I've been doing this a long time. I don't even know how long, but one of my first projects was assistant designer on David Lynch's Dune, so you know that was a long time. But right now I'm doing a project called Wayward Pines with Matt Dillon and Melissa Leo. It's a mini-series we're doing up in Vancouver, and I have a movie. I just saw a trailer for tonight. I encourage you all to see it. It's called Grudge Match with Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro, which is really great. And I did the 3 Men in Black movies and Batman Returns with fantastic designer Bob Ringwood, who's a great pleasure for me to work with. And I don't know, I guess a bunch of other things, which I can't remember.
Okay, I'm going to start with a question for all of you. I'm going to let you go maybe in the opposite order. So we'll let Mary get a first go at it. Mary, tell us a little bit about some of the elements that are involved in the development of character.
Okay, well, first you read the script, and that's where it all comes from, is from the script. And I try, after I read the script a couple times, and then I prepare to meet with the director and show him or her my ideas for the characters. And then you have meetings with the director, hopefully with the director, the cinematographer, the production designer as a group to decide the look and the tone of the film. And then I try, when the actors are cast, to try to at least talk with them, because usually you don't get the actors right away because they're doing other projects. So I try to bring them in as soon as possible to get their ideas and input about how they're going to play the character. And I particularly love to go to read-throughs where you can see, where you can hear the actors and see how they're going to play the character. But we always, when we're developing characters, we always try to bring the actor in as soon as possible. And it's always the director, the actor, the costume designer, the DP, and the production designer. We try to work as a team.
Salvador?
Yeah, I mean, we can read the script and have all the ideas in the world and have a meeting with the director and have these great ideas, and then the actor arrives. And I can have a great idea, but you have to wear it. You have to be the character. And 50% of the time, my concept completely changes because the actor has to organically fit into the character. So, I might have a color or a concept, but an actor really brings a lot to it. And I strive to, even a day player, I try to get the day players involved, and they're actually in fittings are impressed that I'm asking so many questions, and I'm like, you're a pivotal part in the movie or you wouldn't be here. So we try to get everybody involved, from the stars down to the day players, because it's really what you bring to the character that helps us.
Okay, Tracy?
Read the script and then do your research. Basically put together like images or moods for each character. Meet with the director, DP, production designer, etc. And then, of course, the actor comes in for the fitting. I like to have an idea of the actor in my mind's eye. Like, I like to be able to visualize it for myself, because I've been in fittings where the actor has no idea where they want to go. And you, at the end of the fitting, I've had actors say to me, I really know who my character is now based on the clothes that you provided for me. I would have never thought that this is what I was going to wear. But, so I always feel like that's kind of like a compliment to, my thought process. Doesn't always work out like that, but a lot of times it does, which is great. I also feel like working with, having a conversation before the actor comes in and really, getting a feel for who they are. I also like to go to read-throughs or maybe have seen this actor, in an interview or something like that, just so I can, visualize who they are and where I think they might be going with this character.
Thanks. And Christine, and let me remind you all to keep your mics very close and up high.
We're not good at this. It's funny, I think that the costume designer's process of finding characters is very similar to the actor. I think that we all start with the script. We all look at this character on the page, but what you're looking for is the same thing that we're looking for, which is, what is this person's story? What is their socioeconomical background? Who are they, and how are they relating to these other people in the storyline? I think that we all do the same thing, and then we come together in a fitting room with the research we've done and the ideas that we have, and share that and go from there.
Thanks. Now I'm going to ask you, just kind of off the top of your head, what are 2 things that you want to know about the actor that is going to play this part before you ever start the process? Let's start with Salvador.
Again, I'll have my ideas, but I'll try to start the conversation with, how do you see the character? And you'll either get a 20-minute diatribe or I have no idea. And I'm prepared for either of those, because the actor, again, has to wear it all. So I want to sort of see how they saw it. And I asked that question first, because if my concept is completely left field from theirs, I want to either bring them back to mine or, listen to the idea.
Great. And Christine?
I want to know your measurements. And I want to know if you're allergic to anything.
And the right measurements.
Yeah, lie to your sister, lie to your wife, don't lie to us. You're all 6 foot tall, you're all a large. You know what? The more information we have, the better you're going to look.
Exactly. And Tracy?
I would have to say measurements. And for women, if they're okay with wearing Spanx. I'd like to know that ahead of time.
Wearing Spanx. If need be. Mary?
That's a very interesting question. I guess what I want to know with an actor is, why did they take the part? What is it about the part that really interested them, and where do they want to go with it? And to try to start a conversation about, why are they there? Usually there's a lot of interesting reasons that help to develop the character, because we are in partnership with the actor, and we want to go there together and stay friends, hopefully, and make the whole thing work.
Yeah. I was trying to get a little bit at some of the things that Christine brought up, that it's really important for the costume designer to know specific things that other people don't know about you that would affect the costumes, such as allergies. There's nothing worse than an actor walking into a room where you have an entire room of cashmere sweaters for them, and they say, I can't wear cashmere. I'll be purple by the end of the day. I'd like to, with that in mind, is there anything else you can think about? For instance, one of the things I always wanted to know right off is, I always asked them, what's your favorite color, and what's the one color you won't wear, ever? So anything else that just pops into your mind, or?
Well, I think for women, Tracy brought up Spanx, but I have to say, I talk to actors a lot about footwear. Strange but true. I feel like if you can't move easily or assume a stance of a character, that we haven't helped you. So I find myself talking a lot about shoes.
Great. Salvador, I saw you.
It's about the more information we have, the more prepared we are for your fitting. Because if you give me vague information, I'm going to have vague sizes. On top of asking you, how tall are you, how much do you weigh, and what's your bra size, us to women, I ask, where do you shop? Because if you're telling me you buy a 4 at the Gap, or you buy a 4 at Dolce & Gabbana, there's a huge difference. And so, but all beyond, because actors always want to give me their height, or excuse me, I'm a size 42, or I'm this. No, I want to know your height and weight, because that's going to give me a really good idea of what size you really are.
And Mary, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, I think a lot of it comes out when you're actually with the actors, and then right away how they react. A lot of people they feel things. It's like it doesn't feel right. And you say, well, what does that mean it doesn't feel right? But you can tell by their body language. You can tell a lot by just even body language, whether people like something or not, immediately. And a lot of people always say, I like the way it feels. It doesn't feel right, or it feels good. And that's not, that may not be that descriptive, but when you see an actor doing the way they stand and they're just uncomfortable, then that tells you a lot right there.
Thanks. And I'm going to get right to the nitty-gritty of the question. When a costume designer asks an actor, I don't want them to be surprised, embarrassed, or anything. They want to know from a man, is it boxers or briefs? With women, do you have a particular bra you like? Are there hosiery you prefer? There's all kinds of little pieces of information for when you first get into that fitting room to help you feel a little more comfortable. And Christine, talk a little bit about some of the things you might come up against in a period film in regards to those things.
Well, I think it's very important. I kind of call the fitting room as like the doctor's office. You know, it's all is revealed in there, and the cone of silence is on, and you know, it's like it's part therapy, part annual exam. But I feel like with period films that, you know, we know if we want to wear Spanx. We know we're familiar with contemporary clothing. When it comes to a period film, and even the foundations that go into that, I feel like that's a whole learning curve for actors. I feel like a first fitting on a period film where you bring in undergarments can be an exciting adventure. But I think that is a challenge for actors working on period stuff with a costume designer, because it is uncomfortable. It's innately uncomfortable, and it's kind of a journey that we have to take together.
Do any of you have any special tricks you use to put your actors at ease?
Well, I think the more information you give people, if you come in with a plan and they show them research and sketches and you have an idea, and that will give them confidence that you have a plan for them, and that you also will listen to what they say and you have an open conversation with them. And I think it's just to make them feel that you're on their side, that we're there to support them. We want them to look good. We want them to feel good about getting out of their trailer and going on the set, because if they're not comfortable in their costume and in their character, then we really, have kind of failed. So the main thing is to have a dialogue, an open dialogue, that an actor can feel like they can say, well, I don't like that they're not wearing it. And you go, okay, well, let's go someplace else. And you always have to have that open dialogue with an actor, and they have to feel that you're on their side.
I would say getting an actor to trust you. I feel like when you first meet an actor and they first walk into the fitting room, or the first time you have a conversation with them, it's part of your job. It's kind of like actor 101 to help put the actor at ease. So I treat every actor like a normal person, which doesn't always happen. So I think that that's something that they're like, oh, okay, well, you're just like a normal person. And we have real conversations about real things. I also think that they can always tell that if they put something on that we both know doesn't work, I'm never going to talk them into it. I'll be like, oh my God, take that off. I mean, it's like the more honest you are, the more they trust you. It's like you never want to talk an actor into something that they are completely uncomfortable in, because they have to wear it, they have to own it, they have to it's part of your performance. It's like what you're wearing, what they're wearing. So I don't know, I think them being able to trust you and you having a good rapport is extremely important.
I used to have, I used to have a rule of thumb that was never talk an actor into wearing something they don't like in the fitting room, because what's going to happen is the minute you get to the set, you're going to have to make a quick change at that point, because they are not going to wear it. They may think they're going to wear it, but once they get out there, they're just not going to be comfortable. And so you might as well face that situation in the fitting room. I would like to talk a little bit about the fitting room, because that's where some of the really down to the bones, so to speak, happens in the process between the designer and the actor. Mary, you were mentioning when we were chatting earlier about your fitting rooms. I'd like you to explain a little bit about your fitting rooms and why you do them the way you do them.
Well, I'll just tell you about the most recent one I'm doing for this miniseries, Wayward Pines in Vancouver. And we have a big department, but I got the construction people, and we built a huge, really good-sized fitting room, and, decorated carpet and three-way mirror, and just made it, and I always think it's important to have a special area that the actor can go and be by themselves, like a curtain or, some privacy, so if they don't want to get undressed in front of people, they don't have to. So it's all about making the actor comfortable and having, a pleasant environment. And then we set up a special area with a seamless, and I got the gaffer to light it, so we had good lighting. And so when you take pictures of the actors that are now, unfortunately, they're seen by a lot of people. So we try to make them look as good as possible and lit properly, instead of like these terrible photographs against, some rack of clothes. So we try to do it against a seamless with proper lighting. And even the first time I had the DP came and she actually lit it for me. And so we tried to do as much as we can to support the actors, make them feel comfortable in the fitting room, and make them not embarrassed by our photographs.
We did the same thing on Ender's Game, and it was interesting because I've never had a budget line for a lighting package before in a costume budget, but we built a set piece. We had a 20 by 20 foot fitting room. We had a lighting package that was lit by our DP, and it's becoming something that we do often now. It's becoming the norm. And we were discussing this in the green room earlier, and it's something as actors to be aware of, that these fitting photos are going to be distributed to studios and directors and producers, and coming from yoga class, into a fitting room with no makeup on, no hair, no, guys who look like they just rolled out of bed. It's not the way things are done anymore. I mean, I have a friend of mine who had a director request that actors go through hair and makeup before they went to fittings recently. So just know, even when you're on a commercial, even when you're on a day playing gig, that you should come to the best of your ability, looking in a way that resembles the character as cleanly and as polished as you can.
Great. And speaking of those fitting photos, let's talk about Photoshop and how it can help us a little bit as designers if we need to help the actor and you sell a costume. We have a lot of vision. We know what it's going to look like after it's altered, when it's all done, when the jewelry and the accessories are there. The actors generally will have a lot of vision as well, but when those fitting photos go, producers don't have a lot of vision. That's why they hire us. Talk a little bit, Salvador, about the importance of those fitting photos and things that you can do to help along the process.
Again, I think in the old days, you would actually have screen tests, and you get to see it as a finished piece before it was approved. And now everything is so fast. I mean, there are days that I get the actor the morning of, we take a photo, I send it for approval. So when we have the chance, especially with a lot of series or big features, there's a whole body of people that have to approve this. So the photos will be taken, they'll be cleaned up in Photoshop, take out the plug in the back and take out the flyaway hairs, because it's really about presentation. And that goes back to the whole thing, like not running in from the yoga class, but on top of that, if you're a woman, come with your favorite bra. I've had so many actors come with no underwear on, which is always surprising to me. Like, you're gonna come take your clothes off and you forgot to wear underwear. Or, and it's just, the more you bring to the fitting, the better it's gonna go, which goes back to the whole sort of giving us enough information to make it work. Because we are there to service you as an actor, and the more prepared you come to the fitting, the better the fitting's gonna go and the better you're gonna look on camera.
And that takes us back to even the footwear and how important. I think, Christine, that was a really good point. The actor can help us out by bringing shoes that they're comfortable in at a height that they're comfortable at, so that as we're fitting, we can work towards seeing how it's going to look with a shoe of that heel height if we have that option. I'd like to talk for a minute about how you, as a designer, keep characters straight. And what do you do? What are some of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're not just putting costumes on one person? It's not like you only are dealing with one actor, but when that actor is in the room, you have to make them feel like they are the only person that you care about. But there's a lot of interaction that goes into play. And Tracy, explain a little bit about that. How do you set it up so that you can keep things straight from scene to scene and help the actor visualize where the character's going?
Well, I mean, from scene to scene, well, I would think when I talk to actors, the way I keep it straight, I guess, is like each character kind of has a color palette, first and foremost. Like you kind of want to keep certain people in certain colors, only because if they're intermixing with like your other characters, you don't want them to be wearing the same thing. The way to make an actor feel special is when they come into a fitting, at least from my point of view, is I'm a person that pays a lot of attention to small details. So I'll have like tiny rings or like small little like earrings or even like a tie bar or like something that makes the character special. I like to think about like all the little small things that make each and every one of us individual. Like I like to wear my bracelets. I wear them all the time. It's like part of my personality. So I think that's a way to make an actor feel special. What other part of the question was there?
In the actual fitting room, how do you keep it straight?
Oh.
What do you use as a tool?
Besides my breakdown? Well, I think that like I visualize each character first and foremost. And so like when you're speaking to like the actor, you're focusing on their character. And so in my own mind, I guess the way I keep them separate is based on like what the character is.
Christine?
I think, you know, it's important for me in the fitting room that the actor I'm working with is aware of their character in relationship to the other characters. And I like to keep, you know, illustrations and research boards and all those things up in the fitting room that we can reference and discuss as we're going through this process. It is a process. I mean, I've had 4 and 5 hour long fittings sometimes, as torturous as that sounds. But you know, you have to keep context of other characters, other visuals. I keep costume breakdowns, all kinds of things like that that we can refer to as we do the fitting. And the other really important part is a lovely assistant designer who helps me take pictures, and a lot of times we'll be doing things digitally and feed them right into the computer and lay them out and with other fitting photos of other characters that you're going to be interacting with in the scene. You know, that's, for me, there's a lot of technology, a lot of reference boards, a lot of things, charts.
Great.
Charts.
Mary?
It's interesting because I never thought of it that way, because most actors have such distinctive personalities that they're actually hard to confuse. Like that's actually never really, because they are, and particularly if the script is well written and the characters are well written, that you can keep them separate. And luckily, most people who become actors are strong, interesting personalities, and luckily. So they don't really, there aren't that many that are like, unless it's a casting mistake. And, you know, because usually people are cast in different distinct roles if it's a well-written script.
I was thinking along the lines of things like when you're doing 32 changes on an actor in a film, and maybe they're playing maybe they're a young teenager. How do you keep from repeating too similar of a look too often and too quickly in scenes next to each other? That's what I was trying to get at a little bit more. Maybe that's more helpful to you. Salvador?
Yeah.
Well, it's, again, I think I put a breakdown for each show. I mean, I did Veronica Mars, which was a teen high school drama, and I had 30 kids every episode in 15 changes. and you sort of build a closet for them, and you build that closet in your mind, and then you build it in the fitting room. But so I think, again, the characters are, I don't confuse Veronica from Duncan or whatever, but it's also, directors and producers are always amazed at how well costume department know the script. We know the script so well because we're reading it over and over and over again. We're breaking it down over and over and over again. And I will correct them, like, no, she goes to the park first, and then she's coming from work. And they're always amazed, because again, it's our job. We read that script so many times, and it's inherent in us, which is even harder on episodic, where I'm reading 5 scripts at a time and trying to keep them in track. But as a designer, we're thinking the whole episode. Like, you get to work, it's cold, in the morning you arrive with a jacket. Later on, we see you the next day at work, but then you go to lunch, you get spilled on. So we've broken all of these details down, and sort of, when I pull my racks, I sort of pull them in the way I'd like to see the outfits. And on big shows or big films where, in an action film, I did Faster. Dwayne Johnson wore one outfit for the entire movie, and he was supposed to get out of jail, and somebody has a car for him, and he happens to be wearing a $300 Armani t-shirt and custom-made jeans, and his buddy finds a jacket that happened to be custom-made, but it had to look like he found it. And to get to that process, especially in an action film, because most action films take place in a day, and to find that one outfit is generally 60, 70 combinations, and everybody has an opinion about it. But you have to, again, as costume designers, this is all in our mind, and it's sort of just like clockwork for us. Notes and assistants help, but I think inherently in what we do, we're visualizing that whole movie, and by the time you get there, we're plugging in pieces.
All of you have spoken a little bit about your script breakdowns. Mary, explain just a little bit to them what that is, what's involved in it, and how you do it. And
Well, as Salvador said, I feel like I'm constantly reading the script. We're reading the script like every day, all the time. Right before we have a costume fitting, I always have the actors break down in the room, in the fitting, and I read their scenes before we do the fitting. And we don't like read it and put it down. We're reading the script constantly throughout every day. And when in Grudge Match, it was tricky to keep things straight because we had flashback scenes. And you kept going back in time to different places, and that got a little tricky for a bit. But yeah, no, we're constantly reading the script, and then when they're changing it, when you're getting new pages, and on the last Men in Black, we had oh my gosh, they were changing it constantly. So you're all the time reading the script.
yeah, I can share one thing, if I may, that when I used to do my shows, I would make boards for each character, and I would have all the boards lined up for all my principal characters. And as I would do the fittings, I would know from my script breakdown who was interacting in which scene with whom. And that way I could go to my photos and say, oh, you know what? I already have so-and-so in a red dress here. Let's save that dress for a later scene. Let's move forward. Also, the importance of actors understanding things like, well, you can't wear a skirt here because 10 scenes later you're going to be doing a flip on a bicycle, and so you need to be in pants. Those are some of the things that we need to take into consideration when we're breaking scripts down. So it's very important for our costume designers to have a very detailed script. And as they were explaining, it changes daily. So they know the script sometimes better than the director and even the writers. I wanted to ask you just a little bit about, well, we discussed that. Let me just give a second here. How do you keep your producer and your director really involved in the process? We know we have all the fitting photos that go to everybody. Do you like to have a discussion with them before you do a character? What are some of your things? Christine, you want to start?
Producers. Yeah, I think that relationship is almost mandated for us as designers. I think that there are many producers on a film or on a TV show that are Some of them are creative producers, and they're integrally involved with the director in making design decisions. And for me, you know, from the beginning, that's almost the first meetings that you have, are sitting with your producer or producers and director, discussing all of the ideas for the characters and the look of the film before you ever really get to the point where you are meeting with actors. So I mean, I feel like that relationship is always there, and it's quite powerful. And then to keep them involved, which I think there's an expectation, particularly when you're working with studios, that you do keep them involved. And there's an elaborate procedure on how to do that, on who gets distributed to, and all those things. That's back to those fitting photos that you have to look real, real good in. But I think that you're constantly meeting with them, reviewing things, distroing fitting photos, and we're often the conduit of a lot of the actors' ideas and feelings about the character to the producers and to the director. So that, again, you know, goes back to how important that fitting room is, and the dialogue and the honesty and the trust that goes on in there.
Tracy?
I would say, well, right now my producer is the creator of Sex and the City. So he is an intense sort of fellow, to say the least. And he's highly involved in every aspect, from costumes to production design to the props that people carry. I'm lucky that I have a really good relationship with him. We're able to like discuss and talk about characters. I would say in the production meeting, I usually come with like ideas of like how I see the character, and then he tells me what he thinks, and then we kind of go from there. And I agree, like I feel like as costume designers, you're in a position where like you, producers often ask you, well, is the actor happy? How's she doing, or how is he doing, or do they like their clothes, do they like this, you know? And you often are the one that is like, oh no, everything's great, or not, which is a whole nother conversation. I also feel like it's that relationship is really important with your producers and directors. You always want to make, you know, you also want to be really upfront and honest with them because you want them to trust you. Yeah.
Thanks. Salvador?
Again, most of our job starts with, we're hired by a producer and director. So we've sort of given our idea and our take on the project when we're hired. And then as things go along, you sort of you really have a lot of discussions before you even start the process, because you want to know what they're thinking. And with modern television and film, there's a whole body of producers. So you have to figure out, and I say, this is being recorded, we have to figure out who the #1 position is, because there are a lot, and you have to know, well, if he said this and she said that, who do you listen to? On my show, The Mindy Project, luckily, the star is the creator and the executive producer. And then there's an entire staff of producers who will weigh in, but she wins. So and my job on that is actually easy. As long as I keep Mindy happy, then everybody else is happy. But it's also on, you know, I remember I did a film called Men of Honor years ago, and there was this scene where Charlize Theron walks in with Robert De Niro, and they've crashed the officers' ball, and they're not supposed to be there. And I really wanted her to be a fish out of water. So we had 300 couples dressed in period garb, and I did all of the women in matte pastel dresses, no sparkle, just pastel colors. And I put Charlize in a black sequin dress. And I was explaining this concept to the director, and I know at the time he was like, whatever, I don't care. And, you know, again, I showed him the dress, and and then we got to shoot the scene. And there's this great wide shot of her in that black sparkly dress come into the room, and he stopped, and he pulled me aside. He's like, "Oh my God, I get it. Thank you," because it was a concept that I had that I obviously wasn't explaining properly, but it's a collaboration, and you want everybody to get it. So for him to acknowledge that, wait, I didn't know what you were talking about, but it worked, and thank you, is the best reward.
Great. Mary?
Well, I know it's like opening up a can of worms, but I really like having directors in the fitting room because it's more, maybe not the first fitting, but on Grudge Match, we had our director, Pete Siegel, and Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro had like 40 changes, and we were in New York, and we had a lot of time. So we got out the breakdown and went through it with, Pete Siegel, the director, with Robert De Niro and myself. And it was really fantastic because we were all involved in it. And it turned out to be more like Pete really started thinking about the scenes that, what he was going to be wearing in them. And it turned out to be a really, really good experience. And on this last project, I sort of kept that up with inviting the director and I even started inviting the producers, which is really out there.
Really crazy.
but it worked out. But one of the things that I started doing on the last movie, and then I've kept it on this, is having a website. And the night before, I put up on the website the outfits that the actors are going to be wearing in the scene the next day. And that has turned out to be a really good thing, because the one time I couldn't do it because I was too busy, the director was like, well, why is he wearing that? And I was like, oh my God. And when you remind them what the people are wearing the night before, and then they see it in the morning, when you look at the call sheet, and I would have like the call sheet, the scenes, and the pictures of the actors and what they're wearing. So that when the actor gets to the set, there's no conflict about, I didn't know they were going to wear that.
That's a great idea. Wonderful piece for the rest of us. Salvador?
We're laughing about this. I mean, one of the reasons that you don't want the director in the room is because I want the actor to have the confidence that we're going to work things out first before anybody sees it. On the other side, so much information is lost. So if you have a great working relationship with the producer or director, it can actually be a service because you're saving so much time. But again, it's like that you want that initial fitting to be just you and the actor. And then because again, I want you guys to feel comfortable, and if you hate something or you don't want somebody to see something, then we know, like, okay, well, we're gonna put this on them first and then get them dressed. But again, it's really about, and I think every director-producer relationship is different. If somebody that you work with you have great confidence in, that can really be a help.
Great. Now I have a question. I just want a yes or no answer, and then I'll come back to you and ask you why. Christine, do you like to shop with an actor?
No.
Tracy?
Nope.
Salvador?
Absolutely.
And Mary?
It can work out really good. It can work out.
Okay, we're going to ask her why to start with, because she's the one on the fence.
Well, I've had the experience go either way, but most recently, I mean, you've got them, if it is a show where you're shopping, and there's always a few pieces you have to shop, that you have the actor, you make sure you give them the best fitting room they have. Like if you're at Bergdorf's, you're in luck. But, make sure that there's no one around, that they have it locked off to themselves, that you're not going to be sharing fitting rooms with other people, that, the people at the store know you're coming in. And then you do have a lot of access to a lot of variety. And that can be really helpful.
And Christine?
It's not that I don't want to hang out with you and that I don't want to go shopping with you, but I'm working. And when we go shopping, it is like a sport. You have a mission, you have a time crunch, you have things that you have to get done. We don't have time to talk about it. I have to get in there and do this big sweep, and then I'll see you in the fitting room. So if we do it together, you're just not going to be able to keep up with me.
I remember my husband refused to go shopping with me because I would walk by a store and go, no. I'd walk in, I'd look around and go, we're gone. Tracy?
I feel like to go shopping with an actor is to open like a can of worms. Only because it's my job to go out and find these things, and I would bring things into the fitting room that you necessarily wouldn't try on for yourself, because sometimes actors don't always separate the character from who they are or what they think looks good on them as a person. When you're playing a character, maybe something else might look good on you that you would never try in your own life. So part of my job is to open your eyes to things that wouldn't necessarily be your norm. I also feel like it is a sport, and you have to get in, you have to get out. And shopping with someone is, especially actors, they like to talk about each piece. They want to hem and haw, and they want to, and it's like, just go. Let's just grab it. We'll try it on later. We can discuss at another time. Now, when you are dressing someone in their own personal life, it's totally fine to go shopping with them. I've had actors ask me to go shopping with them, or directors, and I'll meet them at SAGs, and we'll get a nice dressing room, and we'll have lunch and wine, and that's fine. That's completely separate from creating a character.
And Salvador.
Let me qualify it. I don't want to shop with you every day because, again, once we're in the thick of it, you have no idea. What you guys do on the 24th before Christmas is what we do every single day of our lives. So it's that intense. But now, I did Veronica Mars with Kristen Bell, and I did Castle with Stana Katic. Kristen Bell's a tiny little thing. And I can bring 30 racks of clothes in, but I met I met Kristen Bell at the mall, at the food court, and we spent 2 hours going through the mall, and I just sort of saw what she gravitated to. And we didn't necessarily buy all of it, but it's like we would try on several pair of jeans and we'll try on jackets, and I knew basically what her sizes are, and I knew basically what she gravitated towards. Most actors aren't gonna give you more than 2 hours, so I'm not really worried about it. But it just gave me a good cross-section of what to shop for her. And then after that, she would have 22 changes an episode, and I never had fittings because I knew her so well. Spending 2 hours with her helped. With Stana Katic on Castle, we were trying to make the character iconic, and what the development with it was. And so we met at Saks, and we went through the departments, and we tried on a few pieces, and then we found this great dark green Diane von Furstenberg trench coat. And we put it on, and we both went, Serpico. And it was the inspiration for the character. And I probably wouldn't have put it on her because it was a bright green jacket. I thought it wouldn't have worked, but on her it was beautiful. And I bought 4 of them because it was such a signature piece. But having that opportunity to, again, you can explain what you want, but to just, again, watch the actor and see what they're going for is a great opportunity. After that, I don't want to do your personal shopping. I don't want to style you. I'm a costume designer. I do a character. I'm not a stylist, so no, I'm not taking you to the mall ever. No.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left before we're going to take questions from our guests here. So give me just a last-minute wrap-up of something you want every actor to know before they come onto the project with you. And let's start with Christine, and we'll go straight down.
There's so many. There's two
Give me a
very
few.
simple things I would love for all of you to know. Please hang up your clothes. It hurts us. If we come into the fitting room or we come into your dressing room and you have left them in a heap on the floor, we feel like you're made. And the second thing is remember people's names. And I know that seems kind of stupid, but when you get your crew list and you get your call sheet, much like we read the script before we go into the fitting room and in the morning at the night to remember everything, take some time to try to remember the names of the people that you're working with. It's a respect thing, and it helps us help you better. Even the PA that's bringing in the coffee, just it's a human kindness thing, but it goes very far in the collaboration.
I would like for you to know your sizes before you come, please. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to an actor on the phone and they're like, oh, I don't know my sizes. And I'm like, it's part of your job to know your sizes. So yeah, if you could know your sizes, that'd be great. And the other thing that I would say is have an idea of like how you're gonna play your character, or kind of know what you want to do, because that kind of like helps me visualize, and it also helps me to get clothes that will work well for both of us.
It's little things like treat the clothes like they're valuable, priceless objects. Because even though it might be a t-shirt from Target, if I only have one of them and you spill food on it during lunch, we have to scramble to clean it. It's funny, like I have an actor who will get to set, puts on his clothes, and goes to hair and makeup. I'm like, you just sat for an hour and a half in that shirt, and now we have to give you a whole new one. It's just, I know what you have to go through on set. I would hope that you all know what we have to go through to maintain it. And just be a little bit aware of that so that we can all work together greatly.
Well, I would say that I would hope that actors would know that we're all in it together, as your advertisement says. that we have to create the character together, that I'm there, that we're all there to support you. That's why we're there. But there's no reason for us to be against you. We're absolutely, totally on your side. And that's why we do it, because if we didn't like actors, we wouldn't do this, because you're who we work with, and anyone who's a costume designer really respects actors, respects the profession of acting, and you should all know that, and that we're totally supporting you and want to support you.
Thank you. And we have some great questions. You guys really came up with some good things. You hit on a few things I didn't have time to get to, so it's just perfect. The first question is for anybody. I'm an actor, but I also have a passion for costume design. Thus far, my experience has been in theatrical design. What are the key differences between design in the theater versus film and TV? And how can I use my background in theatrical design to transition into film and TV? Who would like to start?
I think one of the obvious thing about theater and film and TV is the camera is right there. It's, so it's right on top of you. And so the detail is very different. You're just seeing it completely different.
I spent about 10 years working in theater before I translated all that to film. And I was a designer for theater, I was a stitcher, I was all those things, and then I kind of started from the ground up working in film. And I would say, the biggest thing, all the skill sets are the same. I mean, I actually think in theater you probably find people who have a little bit more training in the technical side of costuming than you do in film, so you kind of have a leg up on people coming into film. But I think the biggest thing is what Mary is pointing at, which is the subtlety of all those design tools that we use, texture, color, silhouette, all of these things. It's a softer take on all of that in film, and especially in television when you have HD now. When you're 20 feet away on a moving body on a stage, the things that you're trying to say with your visuals have to be grander. And the way that we say those in film and television is a lot more subtle. You can give the same impact with smaller details.
Salvador?
I think, again, it goes back to storytelling. I mean, but you need a white shirt. In theater, it needs to be a white shirt for whatever reason. But if it's on a film or a television show, it's not just a white shirt. It's like, who is that character? Where did he buy that shirt? Is it Helmut Lang's shirt or is it from Target? And it's knowing those nuances. And I think, again, she said, I think people with a theater training do have a leg up because it's spontaneous, it's instantaneous. In film and television, we have time to prep it, and in theater, it's instant.
Tracy, do you want to weigh in?
I just think it's a different process, I do think that people who come from theater do have a leg up because they tend to go through all of the technical background that you don't necessarily have to go through to work on TV or film. And I think that the visuals are just different.
Okay. That leads us to another question that right along this is, what kind of training do you need to have to be a costume designer, and what did you have in particular? Let's start with Salvador.
I went to design school to be Calvin Klein. I didn't really know much about film or television. I was a stitcher. I sewed, and somebody said, hey, we need somebody to sew. I'm like, I can do that. And thinking again, I'm waiting until I'm Calvin Klein. And I'm a really good stitcher, and I made really great clothes, and I understood how to fit things. And it just, for me, I fell into film, and I love it. And so I think I was just sort of psychically drawn to it. I didn't know I wanted it, but I really do.
Tracy?
I went to FITM, and then basically I wanted to know where the actors got their clothes. And then I went to fashion school, and I sort of found out. And then I started off as a wardrobe PA, and I worked my way up, and I was very lucky to work with some people in this room who mentored me and told me that I needed to not be on the more technical side and not be like a set costumer, that I had a creative eye and that I should be more on the design side. So I started to work as an assistant costume designer, and here I am.
Christine?
I went to school for theater arts, and I had no idea what I wanted to do in theater arts when I got there. I'm from New York. I grew up on Long Island, and I started going to plays when I was 6 years old, and I knew I wanted to be a part of that world. I just didn't know what or how, or and no one in my family is in this business. I'm like the crazy gypsy child. But I went to a liberal arts state school in New York, and I just took all kinds of classes. I took stagecraft and lighting and directing and acting, and I was really bad at that. So, and then that's where I found myself in the costume shop, my first year of college, and I just knew that was the place to be, and I ended up in theater for a long, long time. And so I do have a degree, though that is not a requirement of what we do in any way, but I feel like it's benefited me tremendously to have an education to rely on.
And Mary?
Well, I went to the Fashion Institute in New York, and then I came out to California and went to the Art Center, College of Design in Pasadena. And then I started working right out of school, and I worked as an assistant for 5 or 6 years, for quite a long time. And that was, to work as an assistant, I would encourage everyone who wants to be a costume designer to do that, because it's a really great place to learn without, you can't get in too much trouble. And it was
Can't ruin your career before you start.
Yeah, no. So, I would still be an assistant if people didn't push me out to be a designer.
I think, I get this question an awful lot as the executive director of the Guild. I get called from students in high school all the time saying, I want to be a costume designer. Should I go to college? Should I just try to come right out and do it? My response always is that you should go to college, that you should take some kind of training or advanced training, that you should learn the basics of things such as stitching and fitting and pattern drafting. It makes you a better designer. Also, even if you just have a liberal arts education, which there's nothing wrong with liberal arts, I shouldn't say just, but that you have a bigger vision of the world to draw from when you become a designer. And that takes us into another question. Where do you draw your inspiration from? And who are your favorite artists, photographers, and designers that have influenced you? Let's start. Who wants to jump in? Let's start with Mary down there. She's making a face.
Well, there's just so many. But one of the things that I do a lot of Photoshop, and another thing that I would suggest people to do is to learn how to draw and have an art background. That's really important, so you can communicate your designs to other people. That's really important. But in, not in Photoshop, but in a program called Painter, you can actually import a painting like a Rembrandt or Edward Hopper or something that you really love, a Van Gogh, and it will translate it into a color palette. So, which is pretty cool. But there's, I grew up in New York as well, and I'd always go to the Met and see these beautiful paintings. When you're surrounded by all these beautiful things, you can't help but absorb it. So I would really encourage, and particularly like the way they're taking arts out of the schools now. Mm-hmm. That really changes your life when you see beautiful things growing up. And
great. Salvador?
I think I take inspiration from so many sources of it. I mean, now the tool now when you wanted to research is to go on the internet, but I like to touch and feel things. I have probably 4,000 books at home, from fashion to art to architecture, historical reference books, and I love holding a book in my hand and going through the pages. It really inspires me. And then you go to the internet and you can sort of fill in pieces, but depending on the project, going to the museum for the day can inspire me. Reading a magazine, going to the mall. I mean, as a costume designer now, I haven't had a break. I haven't had a day off in 2 years. I have shopped nonstop for 2 years. I've gone project to project to project. So I know what's in the store. But I took 6 months off because I just needed a break a couple years ago. And going to the mall was a whole different experience because it's not only what's in the store, but what people are wearing. And I do a lot of contemporary. So it's like, what are people wearing and how are they wearing it? Because you'll pick up a fashion magazine, and it's funny, even going back to the research thing, if you pick up a Vogue magazine now, 90% of what's in there is not wearable. So if you pick up a Vogue magazine from 1950, it's the same thing. It's not really wearable. If I'm gonna do research on a 1950s film, I'll do a Sears catalog or I'll watch a movie that was made in that era, because that's real. But I think it's really just life, and I'm very fortunate. I travel, to Europe often, and I think it's just being out and seeing what people are wearing that inspires me to sort of like, I saw these great sparkly shoes, and I'm putting them on somebody in the next, because it's just, all I've been doing is staring at these sparkly shoes, and I'm like, I'm gonna put those on somebody because it's gonna be great. And it's life that inspires me, and your shoes.
Tracy, how does people watching get you going?
I live on the east side of town, where there are lots of hipsters and people who wear, I live on the east side of town where people tend to dress a little more crazy than they would on the west side of town. Hipsters. So I definitely, I'll walk down the street and I'll slyly take photos of people. Or my lovely assistant, who's in the audience as well, loves to send me photos from the mall or, places that she is like, oh my God, look at what this person's wearing. So sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's really crazy. So I would say real life is a great way to be inspired. I also tend to like to look in old catalogs. JCPenney's and Sears are my favorites. And older movies, I just think that, it's real, and I'm really into vintage looks, and for a long time I would only wear vintage clothes in my real life, so it's kind of like something I'm really partial to. So when I recreate things for like actors, sometimes I like to go off of that.
And Christine, I'd like to hear, where do you get your inspiration on your sci-fi shows? Because you've done a couple of them now, and that's a whole different thing.
Well, I think I agree with everyone here that, we're all kind of students of life. And, I highly recommend looking in all places for inspiration. Read books, watch the news, go to the mall and stare at people, and go to museums and do all those things. And I think, for me, the sci-fi inspiration comes mostly from other movies. Really just watching these movies as a kid, and that's really been an inspiration for just the imagination of the future, by watching other films.
This is an interesting question. How did you, now I've lost it here, hold on. My bad here. Can you tell us about a time you helped an actor with their physicalization through their costume? I'm going to put that one to Mary first.
Well, it happens all the time, but one that sticks in my mind is when I was working, and I guess we could mention, it's a true story, Laura Dern was playing a character, Catherine Harris, who was a political character in Florida when we were doing a show called Recount. And the character she was playing grew up as a child doing dressage horseback riding, so she had very erect posture. Almost unnaturally so erect posture. So, and Laura said that she would do that herself, when she acted. And I thought, well, that's kind of a lot of work to act and then to try to create this unnatural posture. So we made and also the girl she was portraying was very busty. So we made a whole body corset for her. One that's you make short straps that pull the shoulders back, and we just completely changed the whole shape. And that was one instance, but it happens it happens quite a bit.
Does anybody else have something they want to share? Christine?
A good one and a bad one. I would say It does happen all the time. I mean, constantly, you know, we talked about the shoes earlier. It's about that feeling something. That's what we're trying to help you with as an actor, is to feel something that helps you portray this character. And very early on in my film career, I did a little movie called Series 7. When a lovely friend of mine, Brooke Smith, was playing a very pregnant woman. And I decided, wouldn't it just be awesome if she really felt pregnant? Like, let's, like, the weight of it. This is the bad one. So we got her this thing called an empathy belly. And basically, in this movie, she's like 9 months pregnant, and she's running around and, you know, killing people and doing all these terrible things. So it's amazing that she even speaks to me still. So I gave her this empathy belly, which it was torture. And Brooke is actually friends with Fran McDormand, who was doing Fargo at the time. And she called up Fran and said, this crazy costume designer, what's your belly like? And Fran's like, mine weighs like 3 ounces. This is okay. So that's the bad one. We'll never do that one again. But a good one is on Tron Legacy. I was working with Michael Sheen, and he came to the project late in the game. And it was a sudden thing, and he kind of came in and was like, what do you think about this character? What do you want to do with this character? And he's playing this character that's quite androgynous. And he had no idea. He said, what do you think? And I said, well, I think Ziggy Stardust and Liza Minnelli had a baby, and that's your character. And he said, oh, that's great. I mean, we were taking measurements. This was the first meeting. And so I said to him, how do you feel about high heels? He said, I feel good about that. And I said, and how do you feel about wearing a corset? And he said, I don't know. So when I saw him the next time, I put him in Cuban heels that were almost 3 inches, and I gave him a corset, and it was grand. And he hated me, but he loved it.
Great. Do you have one you want to share, Sal?
This is more of a technical angle. My background was construction. I built clothes, so I've always fit clothes on actors really, really well. And I worked with an actor who I think he'll be nameless, who was well known, had starred in huge features, and was now the star of this television show. And he always had a limp, and I couldn't figure it out. So in the first fitting, he takes off his shoes, and he had a little hamburger of insoles. And I'm like, what are those for? He's like, well, my one leg is shorter than the other. I'm like, you're kidding. So that's how you've dealt with this? You've never had an insole made? He's like, no. I'm like, you've been in major feature. He's like, nobody's ever done it. So I happened to know a great podiatrist, and I sent him to him, and he made him insoles. And then we custom made him shoes. And he came to me like literally within the first week, he's like, I don't limp. And I'm not going to say who it is, and you might know who it is. He's always limped because he always had that little, it wasn't proper. And again, as somebody who builds clothes for a living, it was like you start from the ground up. And it's now been 8 years. He's best friends with that podiatrist. He gets a new insole every 2 years. But he's now in his. So not only did I help his character, but I helped his real life by knowing to fix the problem. And so it's on camera and it's technical.
Tracy, I have a question for you. I'm going to direct this one to you because of the kind of show you're on right now. How do you manage a conflict of vision between the producer, the director, and the actor for a character?
I'm very lucky on my show. Whatever Michael wants is what Michael gets. That's it.
How about you, Salvador?
You might have noticed I'm a very opinionated person, and that goes a long way. I think that as costume designers, we have to have the courage of our conviction. If I say, I think it's going to be great if we do red sparkles, I have to fully believe that and fully commit to that. And if you sort of go to a producer director like, well, no, this is what it is. And 99% of the time, I get away with that because I think people realize that I have a vision, and it's a very clear vision because I love what I do. I love the process of costume design. I love the process of character design. And I think producers and directors who hire me understand that, and that's why they hire me. And you have to be able to sell the idea. So, and an actor is a great tool in it because I can only sell it so far. I have to get the actor on my side so that we then sell the idea. Like when I send my fitting photos, it's 1 through 5. I never do my favorite first because they're obviously gonna say no to that. And then I'll always say the actor's favorite is. And I confirm that with the actor before I do it, so I'm not lying. But it's just a matter of, again, selling your idea so that there isn't a conflict, so that it goes to them and like, this is obviously the perfect one. The 4 were just for, so you can pretend you have a choice.
But we have conflicts. It happens a lot. But I feel like one of the things that helps, smooth out that conflict is to use something that I'm sure you're all aware of as actors. It's what's the motivation? What's the objective? I think when you get the producer and the director and the actor all on the same page with what the intent of the look is, that you can start to resolve any discrepancies of the specifics of it when you start to look at it from, more of a descriptive point of view.
Mary, do you want to add anything?
I think if you have a vision for the whole picture, you can usually support your ideas by telling people how it fits into the look of the whole movie, because you're trying to create a uniform look. It's not like one outfit here, one outfit there, one outfit here. It's all one piece of one painting in the show. And occasionally things will come up where you'd be like, and a director will have an idea, and sometimes you have to do it because it's the director. And I'll give you one example really quick. When I was doing Batman Returns, Bob Ringwood and I were designing the Catwoman costume. And we had done it. Basically, we thought it was finished. And then the director, Tim Burton, said, well, where are the stitches? And we were like, oh, God, we thought he had dropped that. And it was like, no, I want them. And so then we were just like, well, it's going to look terrible. But we did it because he was the director. And it turned out to be the thing that really made the costume work. So I think you can't really close your mind to other people's opinions, even if you don't think they're good. Because it's been my experience that when you can bring other ideas together, you end up with a better product, even when it's not something that you had thought of, because other people, actors, directors, even sometimes producers, have really, really great ideas that you end up with this hybrid thing that a bunch of people have thought of, that no one on their own would have thought of on their own.
I remember I used to say to producers, it's your movie, but you've hired me because I do what I do. So let me explain to you why I've made this choice, why I want it, and at the end of that, if you still feel strongly that it's the wrong choice, I'll give you what you want. So that I think is just an extenuation of what you're saying. It has to be a collaboration, as does everything we do in this business. This is a question for anybody. Have you ever had to do a very long search for just the right overcoat or other piece of clothing, as described by Stanislavski in Building a Character? Anything you can think of?
Yeah, that's it. That's every costume.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite though is that when you do that, it's so specific. If you've moved heaven and earth to get it there, and they're like, oh, we cut that.
Yeah. That happens almost every week on my show. It's like, we really want this, we really want this. We go out, we scavenge, we find it on it. We've ordered 50 of them from all over everywhere, and then it's cut.
There's a lot of just in case in our business. We were gonna shoot them 6 times, but get 10 just in case, and they use 2, and you've literally like killed somebody, taken it out of their hands to get that extra one, and it doesn't happen.
We call it psychic costuming.
Exactly. Do you make sketches for the costumes or use photo collages, digital software, mood boards? What really is the process? I'll open that. Tracy, you want to start?
Well, the costumes, the uniforms on my show are based off of an illustration that I worked with an illustrator to create. And then we also use mood boards and all of that. But if you're creating a costume from scratch, either you are illustrating it yourself, if you are able to do that. If not, you hire an illustrator who can convey your ideas to paper. And then from there, you go and you shop fabrics, and you have your beautiful idea created.
Salvador?
I did a show called Moonlight, and in the pilot episode, we had the 400-year-old vampire, and I had some black and white sketches done and showed them to the producers, and they approved which style they liked. And then I showed them colors, and they chose what color they liked. And then I brought them the fabrics, and they chose the fabrics they liked. We made the costume, get the actress on set, and the producer says, "Oh my God, that's beautiful. Where did you get it?" And you're just dumbfounded, like, the mall, Ross.
Mary, you have a very distinct process with your sketching and stuff, and I love what you brought up about the paintings and that system. You use a lot of technology in your process. So how do you do your sketching?
I started off as an illustrator, but I did more like the traditional, more loose drawing with watercolor, and now the style is much more realistic, which in a way is good because people they want to see what they're going to get, even in an illustration. So I'll still do my drawings, but they're more in combination with Photoshop and with more realistic things. Like I'll take heads of actors from Getty Images, and because people always like to see the actors' heads. They do. But then if I have to do a presentation to a studio, I'll hire a sketch artist, and there's some wonderful sketch artists that they'll do, I'll do a loose drawing, and then they'll do a beautiful finished drawing of that. But the head is very important. I think that is really almost more important than the costume design. And I did it as an experiment in my portfolio once because people kept, oh, I love this, I love this. But then I put in one of just a headshot of a famous actor. And they go, oh, I love that one. It's a headshot. So I think in the drawing, if you have a beautiful head of a beautiful actor, you're more than halfway there.
Great. Christine, how about you?
I think it's different depending on the project. I mean, I've done some very smaller budget things where you're shopping quite a bit or pulling, you're not going to build a lot. And a lot of that is, mood boards and tear sheets and all those kinds of things. More recently, though, doing these kind of big, crazy sci-fi things with big studios, I can draw. I draw more theatrically than the studio would like to see. So, on Ender's Game, I had 6 illustrators working with me. I had 2 assistant designers. It was a machine of ideas, and it would be constant digital imagery being assembled into folders of this is what I like for the silhouette, and here's the texture, and here's that, and then you feed that to one illustrator to, create one character. It was 6 weeks of 6 illustrators, 2 designers, and me, from 5 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. Doing these beautiful kind of photoshopped real images. So I just think it depends on the needs of the project and who you're trying to communicate to. The expectations visually are very, very high these days.
And if you were to go to our website and look at our gallery, you can see the difference in costumes illustration sketches from even 5 years ago and how they have evolved. And as Mary said, they want to see the actor's face, their real face. It helps them to visualize what it's going to look like on that particular actor. Do you have a scene that you're most proud of? And I would put it maybe even just a particular costume that is like one of your favorite pieces or something that stands out in your career for you. Let's start with Salvador.
It changes every day. I mean, on the Mindy project, I really love what I get to do with her clothes. I mean, it's every single day is a fashion show on that set, and to see Mindy just smile because she loves it all. So it's funny. I just do so much press for it. And I was like, "What's your favorite outfit?" I'm like, "Season 1. Everything was my favorite." But I mentioned the story about and Men of Honor, where I had this great concept, and I still in my portfolio, that's the one photo that's always there. It's an overhead shot of all the dresses, and just that it was, I was a young designer. It was my second or third design job, and to be able to sort of have a concept and have it realized, it's really satisfying.
Tracy?
Well, right now it's the uniforms from Two Broke Girls. That stands out. But I mean, I did a Will Ferrell movie where he speaks Spanish the entire time, and that was like so much fun. It was 70s inspired, and that director just kind of like lets me just kind of go off and do my thing. So I mean, all those costumes are like so fun. And then the thing I just did, I mean, it's like I could go on and on. You know what I mean? It's like I'm really proud of the IFC thing that you'll see in January. I mean, it couldn't be more beautiful. It's like, 30s to 70s, but just like really like, fun, inspiring sort of costumes for me, So, I mean, but everyone can say that about their stuff.
Christine?
It's like picking a favorite child.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's things that you're gonna see in Ender's Game that I'm really, really proud of. There's a suit that we made for adolescents that's kind of crazy. But there is a costume in Tron that I worked with Michael Wilkinson on. They're called the Sirens, and the lovely Bo Garrett played the lead siren. And they're basically like cars, these girls. It's like this skin tight, white, silvery thing where they look like robots almost. But what I loved about that is there was this beautiful concept illustration that had been done really early on that was, in my mind, unachievable. Just like, how the hell are we gonna make that work? And the techniques and the things that we did to make that happen were a real amalgamation of classic theatrical techniques and really kind of crazy invented sci-fi stuff. Like, we made the fabric, and it was a dance fabric, like a 4-way stretch, fabulous, perfect. And we sprayed balloon rubber out onto it with pearlized pigment to make this like thing that when it reflected light, it almost seemed like the body of a car. So it was this really nice balance for me of all of my training and like this crazy geek out tech fest. So.
And Mary, I'm going to tell you one of my favorites of yours, of course, is Men in Black. It's iconic now, but what is your favorite?
Well, I don't know if it's a favorite, but and I just saw the trailer, that's why I'm thinking about it. On Grudge Match, we had Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, and I had to make green screen suits with light bulbs all over them, on them. And it's a very goofy outfit, and I thought, how am I ever going to get these two big stars to put these ridiculous-looking outfits on? And when I showed each one of them separately the sketch for the outfits, they were like, oh, great. And I was really amazed that they were even willing to put it on. And when you see it, it's like it's a lime green suit with a head cover with boxing gloves and big light bulbs all over it.
What are they supposed to be?
Well, they're supposed to be in like a video game.
Oh, I see.
And they're in a green screen, yeah. But I was just really impressed that they were so into it. That they weren't like, I'm not putting that stupid looking thing on. They were just like, oh, that's great. Let's do it.
Well, we're all children at heart, aren't we? We all
I
want to
guess
have
so.
a good time and dress up. Okay, I'm going to give you each just a quick last-minute comment. Let's start with Christine.
How do you sum it all up in one comment?
We have 2 minutes.
I would say, just directed to this room of people, I mean, the relationship between a costume designer and an actor is, in my mind, a very sacred one. It is the place where we get to create the story. And I think that for me, and I hope for you, that the trust that can happen in that relationship is something that you value and you respect. And when you get the opportunity to come into a fitting room with a costume designer, that you take that opportunity to share in that experience and create something together.
I'm known for having like a pretty strong personality, and I really do like to have I know I'm doing it. I'm getting closer. Okay, I got it. I got it now. I'm at my last comment. Anyway, I just really feel like the relationship between an actor and the costume designer is extremely important. I've got to trust you. You've got to trust me. You've got to know that I want to make you look good. That's my job. And that I would never send you out there in anything that you didn't want to wear or didn't feel comfortable in. I also feel like you have to be able to trust, in the creative process and know that at the end of the day that your character is going to be what you want it to be or look how you want it to look, and that I'm here to help facilitate you giving a better performance.
I have to say, on a personal level, I am so excited that you all came to this, that you cared enough about this part of the industry to come and give an hour and a half of your time, because I think it really speaks volumes about your character and your desire to be the best at what you do. So thank you so much for coming.
Well, just everyone should just know that as costume designers, we totally support all of you. We want you to look good. We want you to go out of your trailer and go on the set and be happy. We're really glad it's not us doing it. and we just are there to help you and support you and listen to you. And that's really important, that we listen to you and that you know you're being listened to and taken seriously.
Great, and I would like to thank you for inviting us all here tonight. It's so important to us to have actors understand how collaborative the process is and how much we have a mutual respect for each other. And hopefully we'll get some of you over to talk to us at our guild sometime. And thank you very much.